Meet Kirill. He helped Meta scale e-commerce ad revenue from $0 to $2 billion. Why would he leave Meta to join the shipping industry? We discuss his vision to use system thinking to help transform an industry where fragmentation is a feature and not a bug. So before we start, can you quickly give audience background? I think it's very exciting for us. You joined us from Meta and you clearly were the merge from your old company. But what's your background?
Absolutely. So for me, my background was always in tech. I actually started with machine learning because it's a natural transition from mathematician to computer scientist, right? And I started my career back in Yandex in Moscow, and I was doing digital ads. So the goal was how to use machine learning techniques to improve ads delivery to users.
So you were doing AI before AI was a big thing, right?
Maybe. It was pre sort of XGBoost AI. Yeah.
Pre-deep learning, pre-XGBoost.
Pre-deep learning, yeah, pre-deep learning, pre-XGBoost, yeah, exactly. And at some point of time, I moved to Hong Kong. So I was thinking, sure, let's try to build cool things. Folks here were looking for someone who knew how ads work. And the reason for Hong Kong is because we work with Baidu and we work with Google. And so, you want to have some place where both of them are reachable, where you could establish connection with those companies. So that's how we ended up in Hong Kong.
Yeah.
And I spent 8 years in Hong Kong, actually, doing various startups and SMEs. I kind of gravitated a little bit from like full stack engineering to machine learning, data engineering, analytics, between those.
Yeah.
And during pandemic 2020, I moved to London, and I've been with Meta for 5 years, and I sort of moved back to ads, to big tech. I was working on products. So product here means improving a delivery system. Product is the algorithm there. And essentially I worked on machine learning side, on systems, delivery, ads delivery, figuring out who should receive what, and how we build products for advertisers that maximize their value. That was sort of my background.
So to give a sense of folks who are not in the world of Meta or big tech to understand what I mean ad delivery. So who are your customer? Who use the algorithm?
Good question. So the customer there is advertiser. So let's say GSBN, we would like to promote a podcast and we could run ads, right? So GSBN becomes a customer of Meta in this case, so advertisers. The goal for advertisers is to sell more things, bring more awareness, bring more people to their platform. So they usually come with some objective, what they want to do, right? On the other hand, you have users who are, let's say, scrolling Facebook, scrolling Instagram, communicating with their friends, and the system matches those two together. So every time when someone scrolls the feed, an app pops up, and the delivery system figures out which ad makes sense to show more. So that's kind of like this matching algorithm. Essentially, there are two components there. One is auction, how to make ads fair, how to deliver to right users and charge the right price. And the second thing is that how to actually understand relevancy, how to make sure that this particular ad is relevant to you, right? And so it's a lot of machine learning happening behind. It's a lot of different events that are used that the company predicts. And that's sort of what's happening.
That sounds super interesting. Then very logical next question is, what brings you to shipping?
A very good question, right? So it's like sort of why person from big tech, like working specifically in
ads
technology,
delivery,
right? And shipping, it seems to be like completely different industry.
Besides, I'm a very good salesman. How did you decide to come here?
Exactly. So I think there are a couple of reasons for that. One is to do with the industry, with the global trade and sort of supply chain, because there is a great opportunity to first improve something that is so vital to us as consumers. The reason why we have products there is because someone shipped them to them, right? And that supply chain optimization is very important globally. So first is sort of, impact to the society. Let's say. Reason number two is that when I look at shipping, this industry does not look very open to outsiders. Like when I read about that, yeah, sure, you can stand major players, but there are a lot of details that are not that open outside, right? Maybe they are written in books, but those books are not necessarily like readily available. So you kind of need to know like what to read, where to go, and so on.
I think there's also tacit knowledge. Some stuff is not even in books. It's in the brain of people who
doesn't really share them that widely, actually.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think this becomes one of the barriers for people from outside to enter shipping, right? Like, how do you enter? Because you need to know so many things, but how do you learn them in the first place? And what I liked about GSBN in particular is that actually there are enough people who have that knowledge, who understand how systems work internally, but at the same time, half of the team here is actually not coming from shipping industry. So they might not have certain ways of working. Right. I wouldn't call it biases, but let's say like certain routine like that exists in shipping, right? And I think because of that, it's a good platform to enter shipping industry, but at the same time not having this cliff of knowledge that need to jump right away because people around that could help. This works so far, so I've been learning quite a lot. Actually, today is my month one.
First month?
Yeah, first
so
month.
What is the most surprising thing you've learned?
The most surprising thing I learned? I think I maybe underestimated initially how fragmented industry is.
Yes.
It's extremely fragmented. And and so my first month was basically questioning like, oh, why is this happening this way? Why is it that way? And I think it's also an advantage, for outsider because I never done those before. And so naturally like, a lot of questions. And that's probably one of my main surprises here.
So, okay, so I think you've told us what's attracts you to here. But based on, let's say, 1 month initial understanding of the industry, what do you think you can bring from your past experience to the shipping industry?
A technology career, I realized that sometimes it's not about processes, it's about establishing the platform on top of which people could thrive. People or let's say, or technology. The system itself could ensure that certain issues, certain problems they're just not possible. And I think in shipping, what I see is that there are a lot of processes happening here. Also, everyone tries to sort of customize process a little bit, like let's say different carriers try to customize process to their needs. But how do we build a technology in a way that customization to each individual member, consumer, would not make system worse? How do we build it in the way that prevents certain issues? I'll give you an example of actually programming language that I've been fascinated for several years already. So there is a programming language called Elm. It's actually a language for front-end development, front-end engineering, right? So naturally, many people would use JavaScript to build websites. But JavaScript has its own issues. Typing, runtime exceptions, maybe when you maintain websites, things get much harder. So what Elm brings, essentially, it says that instead of writing website in the way that you used to, let's think what our problems are. How do we design the system that addresses those problems fundamentally? So what language did, they brought strong typing to JavaScript. Essentially, you write kind of Haskell-ish style, a very typed language. They say that I would make states impossible by design. And by the way, in the previous system, in the JavaScript world, it's very easy to make impossible states possible because, people just like patching on top, you add a bunch of more fields, and suddenly you might make them incompatible with one another. Data itself contradicts, that there are internal contradictions within the data. And what this technology did with Elm is actually forced developers to explicitly model. If you say that there are two possible states, just model them explicitly. And the compiler itself, the language itself, forces every single piece in the system to adopt to that. So you could not, for example, add, one carrier into a list in one place and forget them in another. So it's just impossible. This is an example of building a system that ensures certain constraints at the platform level. So I think in the shipping, it's also possible to do that way, right? So because I've seen how those systems are built, and I would like to bring this culture and this technology into shipping world.
That's very interesting. So the idea is the shipping industry is very fragmented. Everybody wants their own process. Everyone wants the freedom to do whatever they want. But because everybody wants the freedom, then we are faced with a situation where there's a lot of translation that need to happen between different systems, and that what people call standardization, that's literally this, right? The formatting of the data. But what you're saying is you go one step further, which is not just about standardization. A certain process is not possible. So you restrict what's possible so that everyone still keep the flexibility to implement the thing they want, but there's some ground rules that make a system like this more robust because you don't have the full freedom to do whatever you want. So it's almost figuring out what is the set of minimum definition that you want to establish such that you still have the flexibility to do what you want, which is not really a bug, but the feature of the shipping industry. However, can we make that easier to develop the infrastructure, the language level of the system that you're building?
Sure.
Idea.
I mean, there are two things actually. So to what you mentioned is more of a how to model business case into the system. And what we are saying is that certain things are possible to unify, standardize, right? Maybe build it as a platform. But certain things might not be even possible to standardize. Like one way is to sort of, let's restrict. But there is important, like threshold. You could not restrict too much because eventually, the customers tell you like what needs to be done, right? And so I think one point here is that how to build a system at which restriction is reasonable. Everyone benefits from that, but it does not block people. The other thing that I was earlier alluding to is actually when we have differences, we can recognize them. And we should explicitly build systems that do not make system worse by connecting yet another party. If you have your process, I have my process, we still could explicitly model them. We should recognize them. We should not just say, "Oh, let's unify process and let's build like a mega process that connects."
It's not realistic.
It's just not realistic. And so, I think that systematic thinking is very important here.
Cool.
Hey, Zach in your editing room here. I realize that 76.8% of you have not yet subscribed to the Schelling Point. If you could just hit the subscribe button down below, it will really help us out and keep producing content like this. Thank you. Now back to the Schelling Point.
So now it's an anecdote for the audience. So when you first joined, you started it by sending, I think, to some of us, to me, and not everyone, which is also very tricky, a lot of read me about Kirill, how to interact with Kirill. So one example is if you talk to me on Slack, you don't need to say hello, please speak write a simple sentence, logical sentence, 1 point per sentence, and etc. So what was that about? Is that how you do things at Meta?
What is this? Right? Actually, it didn't come from Meta. It came from, I believe, when companies start moving to remote work and teams became more distributed and this sort of face-to-face interaction became not a norm. People realize that actually, I do not know how to communicate with you, right? Do you prefer emails? Do you prefer Slack? Do you prefer me calling you directly, right? Like, what's your way? So I found this sort of remote team guide, API to work with Kirill. Like it's, like it doesn't mean that, if you use a different way to communicate with me, I would not reply. No, of course I would reply. Yeah, it's just a way how to communicate faster. And I thought that, probably it makes sense because, like the team here is multicultural, all come from different backgrounds. So how would I help other people to communicate with me better? But also the other thing you mentioned about not sending it to everyone. I wanted to test it. I wanted to test it at first.
A/B testing.
Literally. Yeah. I wanted to A/B test because, like how people would react. Because this document is actually a live document. It's not supposed to be one-off written. Right, so I put things that I think are important. For example, modes of communication, types, working hours. So one of the things there is that I generally prefer people to communicating with me as early as possible, because I know some people, let's say, a little bit like hesitant to, let's say, send message on the weekend. But one of the things that I learned before is that I myself control the incoming flow. I don't want senders to be restrictive, because sometimes I might be working some odd hours, and that's fine. But I want to get information as fast as possible.
Just to be clear, for context, when you started the thing, you were not in Hong Kong; you were still remote in London.
I was in London.
And some people got freaked out because some people received, some people didn't receive it. We tried to figure out what's the rules. Second thing, we start to play a very dangerous game from HR perspective, which is we say, let's draft those API documents for other people. So not them writing themselves. I won't name names. There's one person who said we should collectively write documents. And then, it was a very bad idea. So we didn't do it in the end. But so that actually triggered a lot of questioning. So another thing also just to share also is actually we worked before in the past, right? So it's not the first time we worked together. And that was when we were both at Asia Miles for the loyalty program, both in Hong Kong. And then I still remember there was one story that I want to share with the audience. It was really fun. It's nothing to do with technology, but more a reflection of a person you are. So I remember we're both working on the analytics team, technically at Asia Miles. And then I think you were running the marketing targeting project, which is very relevant to the experience you have. And the idea is to send physical letters to the members of Asia Miles to ask them to subscribe to a credit card, right? And the idea was relatively simple: to run the model to score the people, how likely they to accept, and then to do a one matching to say exclude people who already have the credit card.
Yep.
And unfortunately, I think you fucked up the query. It was a complicated query. It wasn't like just running a SQL. It was a Spark. It was complicated. It wasn't a simple job.
Yeah.
But I think you fucked up one of the query, and then you accidentally forgot to remove the people who are already have the credit card. And I think what I still remember is a couple of things. Number one is you had a high integrity because you raise your hand and say, hey, yeah, I fucked up, made a mistake. But I know a lot of people just say, yeah, pretend I didn't see it. Yeah, let them figure out, I don't care.
Yep.
And then the second thing I remember also was really funny is what we could have done is just to discard all the envelope, but that was expensive. So Asia Miles leadership didn't want to discard. Instead, asked us to all go there and manually retrieve all those envelopes, which I think we were at 30 people. And then they're removing envelope one by one. We have a sorting algorithm to go check one by one to figure out which one to pick up. And I still remember that because everybody kind of liked you. We know it's Kirill's fault. We're still happy to be there to, fucking post office to sort. How many envelopes was there? It's like 10,000 envelopes that we would sort through?
Yeah, I think there were 30,000 or something like that. It was a big, a big number. Yeah.
Yeah. I still remember. I think we had to think about how to sort it and how to.
Yeah. It took us a day actually. Yeah, I think from
a full day.
Yeah, a full day. Yeah.
Okay,
we came
memory
like in the morning till evening. Yeah.
Well, I just remember that I think people would have be as nice, be willing to do it. It was like you do yourself. You go pick up the envelope by yourself.
Yeah.
So that's my recollection of your days at Asia Miles.
Yeah, I remember the day. It was as you mentioned, it was some sort of a selection of members, and how it worked is that there are multiple criteria that need to be sort of chained together, and that by the time that I flagged it, and I flagged it like as early as possible, because actually even to me it was quite accidental. I was just like going afterwards, like looking at the code and so on, and a lot of that. By that time, we migrated system from what we used before to from SAS to Spark, right? Yeah, and by that time, still a lot of processes were like setting in, and then
there's Zeppelin notebook. I still remember
Zeppelin notebook. Yeah, we Zeppelin notebooks. Yeah, and for some reason, we decided to actually figure out like those accounts, and likely we had the list of those people, right? Because
we had it.
We had the list, right? Yeah, but it's a good problem, right? Like a problem to solve, because imagine like it's not like every day we are solving those problems, how to deal with physical mails in a warehouse, right? It's just, I remember we spent maybe half a day to just like figure out like how to divide people into, okay, you check like this 5,000 mail, you check and someone else check after you.
It was like almost like a programming interview question. How did the sorting algorithm?
But with real human, right? And to me, it was the first time coming to like actual mail warehouse. It's not just post office. That's like a Amazon warehouse or something like that. Right. Besides the fact that we actually achieved the goal, right? That we removed those unwanted mails. I think it was a really good exercise to see who is ready to commit to the task and who is slacking. And so just one day, it took one day for the company, but afterwards, immediately like, okay, I want to work with those people. I don't want to work with those people.
That is true.
So, from the maybe, I would say it's team building, but from the social perspective, it was a really great day.
You can view it as a team building, but I think some of the people were complaining. It was not because of you, but something that was lacking.
Exactly.
So I think I feel we talked a lot about your background, some example I think in the past. Maybe you can share like what you do for fun over the weekend.
Usually as a person, I'm very kind of Excel sheets. Everything is there. Like I do some accounting for different things. And I do have some routines. So for several years already up to this point, for weekends in general, I have one day dedicated for learning, one day dedicated for family.
Okay.
Right. So one day could be, some travel, could be going, exploring something. But one day I usually spend for some activities related to learning.
What are you learning right now?
So it could be, it could be books, it could be technologies, it could be programming languages. So after joining GSBN, I was going through books. So for example, I went through books for the book, right? And now elements of shipping, just learning how ports operates, like things like that. It could be also, a programming. I spent time over weekend, pretty much every weekend to keep hands-on. To be in the industry, to maybe learn different technologies.
Yeah.
So, for example, the project that I was working on, I got interested in Chinese chess, xiangqi, and I was.
Oh yeah, one example. He was speaking Cantonese. I don't speak Cantonese. He was Cantonese better than Mike. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, and I think to me it's important to kind of like learn this culture, and I thought, okay, well, what's the best way to learn the culture than to also program the tool by myself. And I was using Elm that I mentioned before to program the Chinese chess multiplayer game. So that's another activity. I do it quite often. Different projects, different technologies, different tools. And lastly, sometimes I do some weird exercises. I just learn about companies. Yeah, exactly. For example, I pick the industry. And I just try to understand what's happening there. I create a table. I look at the company, I look at their financial reports. So, for example, I was looking back in the UK, I wanted to understand the real estate market. Okay. And I was just going through different platforms, what they do, what the largest companies, what their financial reports. And sometimes there are some gems that you could find inside.
Okay.
Yeah.
Give me an example.
So, for example, there are two largest platforms in the UK that do real estate, a platform for real estate, Zoopla and Rightmove. So Zoopla and Rightmove.
Okay.
So here, like in Hong Kong, it would be maybe Spacious or House 28, like those platforms. And essentially, for consumers, they look quite similar, like more or less the same. Yeah, they're different, a little bit different UI, but they're doing similar thing. But actually, from financial reports, I found out that they look at completely different metrics and they're built very differently. So, for example, a Rightmove is more of a tech company, focuses on increasing margin per listing, driving listings up. Zoopla is more of a conglomerate. They work on rolling up an aggregation of different companies. They not only provide the platform, but they want to, let's say, buy a media company or buy a marketing company that does printing. So in the UK, usually if people sell house, they print a free site of a banner and slap it on the wall. They actually bought a company that's only doing that banners.
I see.
That's it. So they kind of try to invest into infrastructure, right? Like end-to-end process, right? While the other one is no, I'm not doing that. I only focus on the platform, which is a very different approach. And I found
the financial look very different.
Financial look very different. One is stable profit. The other one, zero profit, reinvestment. Yeah.
Which one is more interesting, you think, as a business?
A Rightmove, yeah.
So the pure platform.
Pure platform, yeah.
Okay.
Doing much better, yeah.
Okay. In the shipping is the other side of the problem. It's the other type of business. Okay. If you can grab beers with any programmers or developers, like basically who's your hero in a developer?
Alive
Alive or dead?
Alive or dead.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or maybe give me one dead and give me one alive.
I give you two alive.
Okay. No, I want one dead. Give me one dead.
No, I give you one dead, but I give you two alive.
Two alive. Okay,
fine, yeah. Okay, so one dead is easy, is a little bit easier. Yeah, so it's would be Dennis Ritchie.
Who?
Dennis Ritchie. So the guy who made language C.
Okay.
So I think by that time, during that era, contribution was primarily made by individual person.
Yeah.
So it's a single person who learns a lot, goes very, very in detail, in depth, and build something that others say, wow, like it's so cool, right? It was an era of individual contributors. It's not the case anymore, I think. There are only some niche sort of languages or niche technologies are built this way. But back then it was possible to, because the technology was not like as complex, such that one person still can do that. I think the contribution was enormous, because that language became a fundamental for a lot of tools. So from a life, I would say one person would be sort of tech evangelist. It's Richard Feldman, like his name. So actually, I learned about this person from GitHub. I was browsing different libraries. It was specifically JavaScript that I wanted to find by that time. And JavaScript is known for like ease of library contribution. Everyone creates their own thing. There is an entire library that just says true all the time. That's it. It's the only what it does. So the ecosystem in that environment is massive. It's gigantic. And I think that guy, when he came, he introduced this. He started building stuff that is important, but not more than that. It's like, okay, I'm building a testing framework. It's 200 lines of code, but it does everything what you need. And there is only one way to do things. So it's so much easier, right? Like when team adopts, there is no way to do something else. So that's actually how I learned him. But then he popped up another time. And again, maybe I return to a previous story about this Elm language. He was one of the contributors to that. And he joined this company called NORAD Inc., that is essentially an education company, and they introduced this maverick technology of Elm into their system. And they say that even though no one else in the industry used that before, that technology improved how they work, and also it became an attraction point. Yeah. People want to join that company. They don't care about education anymore. They just want to join because of that technology. Yeah. But what's good about this guy, Richard, is that he's simultaneously good technologist and also educator. Yep. He's able to explain to wide audience difficult concepts easy to understand way. Yeah. So, and it seems every single time he does presentations, like, wow, like now it makes sense. Now it makes sense. Like I always thought about that, but you put this idea into words, and now it's so easy. And I noticed that he was able to produce a lot of different technologies throughout career. For example, now he's working on this language called ROC, R-O-C. So the idea was to bring these functional languages into front-end and back-end development and make it so functional languages are performant, because it was one of the major concerns before. And basically to do that, you need to not only build, let's say, a good syntax, but also use some like mathematics behind, some good computer science behind. And so, he's now driving that project and, sort of like passively following, trying to understand maybe once every 6 months, like, okay, what's going on with that? It's not something that's ready for production, but I think it might be at some point of time. Yeah. So Richard Feldman. And the other person that I quite follow and respect is John Carmack. So, of course, is the guy who, just like for sort of wide audience, the person who made game Doom. Yeah. And it's maybe easy to underappreciate how difficult it was. By that time, all the games were just 2D, sort of on a plane.
Before GPUs, how do you make
Before GPUs, and the person, like even nowadays, like making 3D games is difficult. You need to have all the ray tracing and so on. And so, for example, when I was sort of like learning about like what happened there, how he did it, with 3D gaming, it's important to do some operations. Some operations, they appear more often than others, and they take a lot of resources. And so he came up with idea how to compute inverse square root. Right? You heard that story?
Of course.
And then when you look at the code,
the formula is like, how does it work?
You look at that, how does it work? How you came up to that? And then he used knowledge from many different industries, right? He used knowledge from computer science, like that it is important to allocate that. He used knowledge from optimization methods, like how to use like 2 steps of Newton optimization method, but like wrap them that way that you don't even see that. And he also used knowledge from just purely the fact that digital numbers, they represented as bits. And so how could you use bit operations, bit manipulation that represents real operations in the world. So that's just pure genius. And I was following him because he was also working in Meta at some point of time, right? He was working on Reality Labs, and
I think he was very critical after he left.
That's very critical.
He said what is the Quest 2 or the Quest 3, whatever, I think was overpowered. I think he was promoting for a worse device, but it can be used by a wider group of people. as opposed to Quest 3 strategy, which is a much higher quality device.
Yeah.
For
Exactly. Yeah. So consider like the area he was in, right? Maybe also with GSBN in a similar area. There's a lot of opportunities. You could do a lot of you could go a lot of different ways. How do you pick one? And it's unknown. Maybe in 10 years we look back into this episode and everything would be clear. Oh, sure, it made sense to do this way, but at the moment we do not know. And for him also was the case. And I think
now he's working on AI, I think, right? He's working on AI right now.
Working on yeah. But why I respect him is not only his technology knowledge is good enough to be respected, well respected in the industry, right? But I think he also mixes it very well with the business knowledge, right? So to what you mentioned about quests, right? Is like, are you competing? Like, who are your competitors? Like, how do you make it so, let's say when companies who are able to produce their own chips, they come in, they would have an upper hand. How do you protect from that effect? Like, how do you manage the risk, right? And maybe the industry should be is not building the most powerful device and compete on chips, compete in an area where you for sure would lose, but compete in an area where you can win.
The developers, the game people who make the games,
right? Like, for example, one of the biggest advantage I think for Meta is this sort of like human to human interaction. So for example, when you're in the helmet, you would like to see other person. When person blinks, you want to see that avatar blinking, right? So some human interaction. And then maybe individual feature, like when you hear from outside, you're like, well, how does it matter? But when you actually experience it's like, wow, like it's so cool.
For sure.
That's another example here would be with Sony versus Nintendo. When you look at Nintendo Switch, the hardware is very simple. Yeah, it's very simple. But they've been able. Basically, Nintendo said that we are not competing with PlayStation or Xbox. It's very hard. We carve our own niche. We carve the niche of the sort of social gaming, right? And then it becomes, wow, like now it makes sense. Yeah, it's very different. Like people realize And I think Carmack is one of those guys who is able to see on a very bird eye view on a macro scale to create industries. So that's I think that's very respectable.
Cool. Thanks a lot for answering all my questions. I think we're preparing for that. It almost feels like an interview. You have your job. You pass the interview.
Exactly.
I think looking forward to working with you and also for you to meet our partners. I'm sure they'll have a lot of questions for you. Would you make available your API guide to other partners also, or is just for internal?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, actually, it's something that's possible to put outside as well. Yeah.
Okay. I was joking. Don't put it outside. You're going to freak out people. So as you can tell from my conversation with Kirill, I think we've been working for many years together. I think it's going to be very interesting to see what we can come up for the industry. And Kirill will be more involved with talking to the business partners, and also take a hard look at the technology also. Right? GSBN started as a blockchain network, I think, almost 7 years ago from technology perspective. A lot of things has changed. And I think we have also to examine how to make sure that infrastructure can really scale to the use case that we're considering. So I think that's a very exciting time, and very, very grateful to have Kirill join us. On that note, if you like more behind the scene type of video like this, where we interview some of the members of the team, feel free to comment, and we try to record some of the episode probably towards the end of this year around Christmas time. But we can do some special episode if you want to know more about the men and women who are working at GSBN and how we came to be this industry and what the thing we're focusing on.